Ada clutched the edges of the hospital bed, her breathing shallow and rapid. She could feel her heart pounding as Dr. Sei hovered over her, his face shadowed with concern. She tried to describe the strange sensations, the itching, the feeling of crawling beneath her skin, but words failed her. The doctor lifted the blanket tentatively and froze, his eyes widening in shock. Wriggling, pale creatures were emerging, tiny but unmistakably alive. Ada stared, paralyzed in horror, as the maggots continued to surface, a grotesque mockery of life within her own flesh. What's happening to me?" she whispered, but Dr. Sei was too stunned to answer. Ada's vision blurred as her stomach twisted in horror. She looked down at her body, barely able to process what was happening. She wanted to scream, to jump off the bed, to escape the nightmare that had become her reality. The maggots wriggling beneath her skin, pushing through like living threads, sent waves of nausea through her body. Dr. Sei's voice was low, almost a whisper, as if he couldn't believe his own words. "Ada, this isn't a normal infection. I've never seen anything like this." Ada struggled to make sense of what he was saying. Is this a disease?" she stammered, hoping that maybe, somehow, there was an explanation that didn't involve the horror she was witnessing. But deep down, she already knew there wasn't. The strange sensations, the shadowy visions, the nightmares that had plagued her in recent weeks, none of it was normal. Her mind raced back to the moments she had brushed off, the times Colonel had urged her to take a strange herbal drink, the times he would insist she stay with him overnight as though he feared she might vanish. His recent changes in behavior, the strange phone calls, and late nights were adding up to something far more sinister. Dr. Sei pulled on a pair of gloves, his face a mixture of revulsion and determination. He gently touched her skin, pressing near the edges where the creatures writhed. "It looks like they're coming from inside you, Ada. We need to run more tests." His voice softened as he looked into her terrified eyes. "Whatever is going on, we'll get to the bottom of it." Ada wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust that this nightmare would end. But her instincts told her otherwise. There was a feeling deep within her, a gnawing sense that this wasn't a simple medical problem. It was something darker. As the doctor left to arrange emergency tests, Ada's mind drifted back, unbidden, to memories of her boyfriend, Colonel. The man she thought she knew, the man who had come into her life like a whirlwind, sweeping her off her feet with his charm and ambition. She had once felt lucky to be with him, proud of his success, and enchanted by the life he promised they would build together. But what had she truly known about him? And what was he truly capable of? A year before, in the bustling streets of Lagos, Ada had met Colonel at an art gallery. He had been effortlessly charming, a man who carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who knew how to get what he wanted. Tall, with a smooth, deep voice and an easy smile, Colonel was magnetic. Ada remembered their first conversation, the way he had spoken of dreams and success, promising her a life filled with comfort and adventure. For months, they had been inseparable. Colonel took her to exclusive parties, introduced her to influential people, and showered her with gifts. She felt like she was living in a dream, one she was reluctant to wake from. He was always so attentive, always so quick to encourage her to stay close, to move in with him. In his embrace, Ada felt safe, like the world was at her feet. But as she lay in the hospital bed, her skin crawling with a horror she could barely comprehend, she couldn't help but wonder how much of it had been real. Had Colonel loved her at all? Or had he just seen her as something else? An opportunity? In the privacy of his home, Colonel's true nature was something far more disturbing. Behind the closed doors of his luxurious apartment, hidden from Ada's friends and family, he had been making deals that required sacrifices, deals that could make his dreams come true. Ada had been completely unaware that she was the one he was offering up. Kunal had met with a powerful herbalist months ago, seeking a way to acquire wealth quickly, a way to rise above his peers and cement his status in the city. The herbalist had instructed him on what he needed: a pure-hearted partner, one who loved him unconditionally, one who would unknowingly become the source of his wealth. Kunal's mind had immediately turned to Ada. She was trusting, loving, and above all, loyal. And so, the dark ritual had begun. Kunal had insisted Ada drink his special herbal mix under the pretense of improving her health and immunity. He had pressed her to sleep in his home night after night, secretly muttering chants over her sleeping body, subtly guiding her into a state where her spirit would weaken, where her life force would slowly become his own. His charm was nothing but a mask for the darkness he had embraced. Ada's symptoms had started subtly: exhaustion, strange dreams, odd sensations. But each time she voiced her concerns, Kunal had dismissed them, telling her it was simply the result of overwork, of modern-day stress. He had convinced her that she was just imagining things, gently reassuring her that he was there to take care of her. But as the ritual continued, her symptoms became impossible to ignore. And yet, Kunal had been careful, always insisting she needed rest, always making sure she was isolated from those who might help her. And now, lying in a hospital bed with a doctor who didn't believe his own eyes, Ada was beginning to realize the horrifying truth. Kunal hadn't been her protector. He had been her predator. The following days blurred together as Ada lay in the hospital, her body becoming a battleground between the living and the grotesque. Dr. Say ran every test imaginable, desperately trying to identify the source of the maggots that had emerged from her flesh. Each day, Ada felt the weight of fear suffocating her, pushing her into a dark corner of despair. During her long hours alone, she reflected on the subtle signs she had ignored: the unsettling feeling of being watched, the strange whispers she sometimes thought she heard while lying in bed, the sudden sense of dread that had gripped her whenever Kunal would leave for late-night meetings. She felt like a puppet, manipulated by strings she couldn't see. Dr. Say returned one afternoon, his brow furrowed with concern. "Ada, the tests have shown no physical cause for these symptoms. I'm beginning to think this could be more than just a medical issue." He hesitated, his voice lowering. "It might be worth considering, a spiritual or supernatural cause." Ada's heart raced at his words. She wanted to dismiss the notion, to believe in the rational explanations of science and medicine. But as the maggots continued to manifest, wriggling beneath her skin, a part of her began to accept the terrifying possibility that something dark was at play. "I don't believe in curses or rituals, Dr. Say," she replied, her voice trembling. "I've always been a logical person. It must be some kind of infection, something treatable." "I understand," he replied gently. "But sometimes, our minds can fail us. You need to open yourself to the possibility that you may have been targeted by someone close to you." Ada thought of Kunal. The man who had promised her everything, who had swept her off her feet with love and charm. Could he really be involved in something so sinister? The thought twisted her stomach. "No, he wouldn't. He loves me," she whispered, almost trying to convince herself. Dr. Say sighed. "I hope you're right. But I want you to be safe. I'll continue searching for answers, but please keep your guard up." As the doctor left, Ada felt an overwhelming wave of anxiety wash over her. Kunal had been distant lately, always distracted by his phone and secretive meetings. Perhaps she had been blind to the truth. The nagging feeling in her gut intensified, and for the first time, she began to question everything about their relationship. Days turned into a week, and Ada remained in the hospital, unable to escape the oppressive atmosphere that surrounded her. Dr. Say was relentless in his pursuit of answers, but each test yielded the same unsettling result: nothing. The medical community had no explanation for the maggots that crawled from her body, leaving them perplexed and frustrated. One evening, Dr. Say decided to dig deeper. He reached out to colleagues who specialized in rare diseases, but they too were baffled. As he reviewed Ada's case, a name kept surfacing: Mokolo, a term he had heard whispered in the context of dark rituals. Determined to learn more, he sought out local elders and spiritual leaders who might have insights into the supernatural. His inquiries led him to a renowned priest in the city known for his connection to the spiritual realm. The priest's reputation was formidable. He was said to have dealt with cases that left doctors scratching their heads, cases that often involved curses and dark magic. "Doctor, you tread on dangerous grounds," the priest warned when they finally met. "These things are not to be trifled with. If the spirits are angry, they will demand their due." Dr. Sei nodded, his heart racing. "I need to know what's happening to my patient. I believe she's been cursed, but I don't understand why." The priest leaned closer, his eyes piercing. "Curses often come from those close to the victim. A betrayal of the heart can unleash dark forces. You must uncover the truth about her boyfriend. His love may be a facade masking something much more sinister." Dr. Sei returned to the hospital, a mix of hope and dread coursing through him. He needed to speak with Ada again, to warn her about Kunal, but he hesitated, unsure how to present his findings without causing her further distress. As the days passed, Ada's health continued to decline, and she could feel Kunal's shadow growing darker in her mind. Every time her phone buzzed with his name, her stomach twisted. She wanted to believe in their love, but the evidence of her body's decay was overwhelming. One night, as she lay in her hospital bed, the lights dimmed and the silence enveloped her. She stared at the ceiling, memories flooding back to her, the laughter they shared, the dreams they wove together, the promises of a bright future. Yet, alongside those memories was the growing knowledge that Kunal had secrets he was hiding from her. As if summoned by her thoughts, Kunal arrived, his presence filling the room with a strange energy. He wore a charming smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Ada, my love, how are you feeling?" "Better, I think," she lied, avoiding his gaze. The moment he entered, she felt the weight of her suspicion suffocate her. Kunal moved closer, his fingers brushing against her hand. "I miss you, you know. We need to get you out of this place. I can't stand seeing you like this." "I don't know, Kunal," she replied, her voice trembling. "Dr. Sei thinks there might be something else going on, something spiritual." Kunal's expression flickered, a hint of irritation passing over his face before he masked it with concern. "What do you mean? You can't let those stories get to you. You know how people love to gossip." "But what if it's true?" she pressed, her voice rising. "What if someone is doing this to me?" His expression hardened, and for a moment, Ada saw the real Kunal, angry and dismissive. "You need to stop being paranoid. It's just the stress of work. I'll take care of you. Just trust me." Trust. The very thing she had built her life around was beginning to feel fragile, like glass on the verge of shattering. As Kunal's charming facade faded, her heart sank. She had to protect herself, but how? Kunal leaned in closer, whispering, "You know I'd never hurt you. You're everything to me. Don't listen to anyone else." His words wrapped around her like chains, binding her to a reality she feared. As he left, Ada felt her heart pound in her chest. She had to figure out what was happening, and soon. Her instinct screamed that she was in danger, but breaking free from Kunal's hold would be more challenging than she could ever imagine. Back in the shadows, Kunal's true nature was beginning to unravel. Each day that passed with Ada still in the hospital felt like a ticking clock, echoing in his mind. The more she lingered in that sterile room, the more he felt the grip of the ritual tightening around him. In the secrecy of his home, Kunal met with the herbalist again, desperation clawing at him. "It's not working. She's still alive. I need her to be weak, to be ready for the sacrifice. The herbalist, shrouded in layers of robes and mystery, leaned forward, his voice a low growl. You need to feed the spirits, Colonel. Her suffering must be amplified. Only then will you see the wealth you seek. Colonel's eyes darkened. But what if she finds out? What if she remembers? Then you must keep her close. Do whatever it takes to ensure she trusts you. Continue the rituals, she must not escape your grasp. The moment she senses the truth, all will be lost. Colonel left the herbalist's den, determined yet terrified. He had grown too comfortable with his deceit, and now the price was becoming clear. Ada's life was slipping from his fingers, and soon he might lose everything he had worked for. That night, he returned to Ada's hospital room, but this time, he had a plan. He brought with him a small vial of herbs, blended with the power of dark magic. I want you to take this, he said, presenting it to her like a precious gift. It will help you recover faster. I know the doctors don't understand, but I do. I'm always here for you. Ada eyed the vial suspiciously, a growing sense of dread coiling in her gut. What is it? Just a little herbal concoction, he replied, his smile wide yet hollow. It will boost your immune system. You trust me, don't you? Her heart raced, and for a moment, she wanted to give in, to believe in the love they had shared. But the memory of the maggots crawling from her body surged to the forefront of her mind, making her pulse quicken. I'll ask Dr. Say about it first, she said firmly, her voice shaking but resolute. Colonel's smile faltered, and for the first time Ada saw a flash of anger in his eyes. The charming facade slipped just for a moment, revealing something darker beneath. Ada, you don't need to involve him in everything. I just want to help you, he said, his tone dangerously low. I know you care, but I need to be careful, Ada insisted, pushing the vial away from her. The tension in the room thickened, a palpable weight that made her heart race. I can't just take something without knowing what it is. Colonel took a step back, masking his frustration with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Fine. But you're only prolonging your suffering. Just remember, I'm the one who's always been there for you. I love you, Ada. His words hung in the air as he left the room, leaving Ada to grapple with the conflicting emotions swirling within her. Was it love that drove him to act this way, or was it something far more sinister? The hospital lights flickered as the evening settled in, casting shadows across the walls. Alone, Ada felt more isolated than ever. She glanced at the vial on her bedside table, its presence a reminder of the uncertainty she faced. She needed answers, and fast. As she lay there, sleep eluded her, and her mind raced with thoughts of Colonel. The memories of their happier times mixed with the dark undertones that had begun to surface, creating a tempest of confusion. Could the man she loved really be the source of her pain? Determined to uncover the truth, Ada resolved to take matters into her own hands. The following day, she requested a private meeting with Dr. Say. The moment he entered the room, she could see the concern etched on his face. Ada, how are you feeling? He asked, settling into the chair beside her. I need to know more about the tests you've run. I can't shake the feeling that Colonel is hiding something, she confessed, her voice shaky but resolute. I want you to tell me everything you've found, even if it sounds crazy. Dr. Say hesitated, studying her closely. I appreciate your trust, Ada. I'm trying to find a medical explanation, but the truth is, your case is unprecedented. The symptoms you exhibit, along with the maggots, suggest a form of parasitic infection, but there are no records of anything like this. What if it's not medical? She pressed, her heart racing. What if it's something supernatural? What if I'm being targeted? He leaned closer, his voice lowering. You're not the first patient to mention this, Ada. I spoke to a local priest, and he hinted at dark rituals that can cause profound suffering. If someone is using you as part of a ritual, we need to act fast. Ada's stomach churned at the implications. You mean Colonel? He's been acting strange, and now he wants me to take some kind of herbal remedy. I'm terrified, Dr. Say. I don't know what to do. Dr. Say's expression softened with empathy. You need to stay strong. Trust your instincts. If you feel that something is wrong, you must protect yourself. We can work together to investigate this further. I'll do everything I can to help you. As they spoke, Ada felt a flicker of hope. She wasn't alone in this nightmare. But the nagging doubt about Colonel's intentions still haunted her. I'm going to call my family, Ada said, resolve hardening in her voice. I need them to know what's happening. Dr. Say nodded, a serious expression crossing his face. That's a good idea. They might help provide some clarity. But be cautious with Colonel. If he suspects you're questioning him, it could escalate things. The next day, Ada's family arrived, a comforting presence amidst the chaos. Her mother, always the practical one, rushed to her side, concern etched on her face. Ada, what happened? You look so pale. I've been sick, Mom. But it's more complicated than just that, Ada said, her voice trembling as she recounted the events that had led her to the hospital. Her mother listened intently, her expression darkening as Ada revealed her suspicions about Colonel. You need to be careful. I don't trust him, her mother said, her voice low. He's too charming, too good to be true. People like that often have hidden motives. Ada felt a chill at her mother's words, but there was no denying the truth in them. I thought he loved me. We were building a life together, she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. Sometimes love isn't what it seems, her mother replied gently. You need to protect yourself first. If he's dangerous, we'll figure out how to keep you safe. With her family by her side, Ada felt a sense of reassurance. They discussed strategies to confront Colonel, to gather evidence of his potential wrongdoing, and to explore the herbal remedies he had insisted she take. But as night fell, Ada couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Colonel had become a shadow lurking in her mind, and she knew she had to confront him before it was too late. That evening, Colonel visited again, his charm on full display as he entered the hospital room. But this time, Ada was ready. She sat up straighter, her heart pounding with resolve. Colonel, we need to talk, she said, her voice steady. His smile faltered slightly, and a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. Of course, love. What's on your mind? I've been thinking about the herbal remedy you brought me, she began, gauging his reaction. Dr. Say thinks it might not be safe. Colonel's expression hardened for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. Dr. Say doesn't understand. He's just a doctor. I know what's best for you. Do you? She challenged, feeling emboldened. What exactly is in that remedy? Why are you so determined for me to take it? Colonel's demeanor shifted, and for a brief moment, she saw the anger flicker in his eyes again. Ada, you're being paranoid. I love you, and I just want to help you recover. You keep saying that, but I need to know the truth, she pressed. Is there something you're not telling me? The tension in the room escalated, and Colonel stepped closer, his voice low and dangerous. You don't need to question my love, Ada. Trust me. Just trust me. In that moment, she felt the ground beneath her shift. Everything she had believed about their relationship began to crumble. The words echoed in her mind, just trust me." But trust felt like a lie, a trap woven from his charm and promises. "I don't think I can trust you anymore, Colonel," she whispered, her voice trembling with fear. Colonel's face contorted with rage. "You think you can turn your back on me? After everything we've been through? You're mine, Ada. You can't just walk away." She recoiled at his words, the realization hitting her like a cold wave. "I won't let you control me anymore. I'm going to find out what's really happening." Colonel's expression shifted from anger to desperation, his voice turning cold. "You're making a mistake, Ada. You have no idea what you're dealing with." After Colonel stormed out, Ada felt a mixture of fear and liberation. She was no longer trapped in a web of denial. She had made her decision to fight back, to seek the truth about what Colonel was really doing. With the support of her family, she began researching the herbal remedy he had brought, combing through books on traditional medicine and herbalism. She discovered that many herbs could have healing properties, but they could also be used to manipulate or control someone. The thought chilled her to the bone. Meanwhile, Dr. Say continued to pursue the spiritual angle, interviewing local elders who had experience with curses and rituals. Each story was more horrifying than the last, of people who had lost their lives, their souls consumed by dark forces. One evening, as Ada sat with her family, she received a message from Colonel. "I'm coming to see you. We need to talk." Her heart raced as she read his words. There was no way he would accept her resistance without a fight. Her family stood by her, their expressions a mixture of concern and determination. "You don't have to see him if you don't want to," her mother said, her voice firm. "We can handle this together." "No, I need to face him," Ada replied, her voice steady. "I need to know the truth, and I won't back down this time." As night fell, the tension in the room thickened, and Ada steeled herself for the confrontation that lay ahead. She knew she had to be prepared for whatever Colonel had in store, for the darkness that had seeped into her life was far from over. When Colonel arrived, his demeanor had shifted. The charming mask was gone, replaced by an intensity that sent shivers down Ada's spine. "You think you can just push me away?" he snarled, stepping closer, the tension palpable in the air. "Stop!" Ada shouted, her voice ringing through the room. "You need to tell me the truth, Colonel. I won't be afraid of you anymore." For a moment, his expression faltered, confusion flickering in his eyes before he masked it with rage. "You have no idea what you're talking about, Ada. You're letting them poison your mind against me." "Am I? Or am I finally seeing you for who you really are?" she shot back, her heart pounding in her chest. "I know you've been involved in something dark. Why did you want me to take that herbal remedy? What are you hiding?" Colonel's jaw tightened, and for a moment, the room fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the distant sounds of the hospital. "You wouldn't understand, Ada. I'm trying to help us, help you. This is about something bigger than both of us," he spat, desperation creeping into his voice. "Bigger? You mean your obsession with wealth and power? That's all you care about?" Ada's voice rose, filled with a mix of anger and fear. "I've seen the changes in you. You're not the man I fell in love with." Colonel stepped closer, his tone shifting from anger to something almost pleading. "Ada, you don't understand what's at stake. They will destroy everything we've built if you don't cooperate. I did this for us." "Did what? What did you do?" she demanded, refusing to back down. With a heavy sigh, Colonel's mask began to crack. I made a pact. I thought it would give us the life we wanted, the wealth we deserved. But I didn't realize the cost. I never thought it would hurt you. The air around them grew thick with tension as Ada's heart sank. A pact with who, Colonel? What kind of rituals have you been involved in? I didn't want you to know. I wanted to protect you. They said you had to be part of it, that your energy was needed. His voice trailed off, guilt and fear washing over him. Part of what? She pressed, her voice rising. What kind of sick games have you been playing? I don't want to be a pawn in your twisted schemes. Colonel looked at her, anguish painted across his features. I didn't want it to go this far. I thought I could control it, but now it's out of hand. I didn't know they would turn on you. Ada took a step back, her mind racing. Who are they? What do you mean they will turn on me? They're powerful, Ada. The herbalist I've been consulting, he knows things, dark things. You don't understand the forces at play here. I was just trying to make us rich, to give us everything we ever wanted. But now it feels like I've trapped us both. Ada felt the ground beneath her shift, the reality of Colonel's confession shaking her to her core. So, all those nights when you were busy, you were meeting with these people? You let me get sick for this? Colonel's expression turned desperate. No. I didn't want you to be hurt. But the longer you stay sick, the closer you come to their power. I thought if I just kept feeding them, we could reverse it. Feed them? What do you mean? I'm not some offering, she shouted, her fear transforming into rage. I won't let you drag me into your darkness. Then you need to cooperate. You don't know what they'll do to you if you refuse, he said, his voice rising in panic. You need to come with me. We can fix this together. Ada shook her head, fear clawing at her insides. Fix what, Colonel? You're not making any sense. This isn't love, this is madness. He stepped forward, grabbing her wrists. Ada, please. I love you. We can escape this together. Just trust me. Ada's heart raced as she pulled away, tears streaming down her face. You've betrayed me, Colonel. I need to protect myself from you. As she tried to distance herself, a wild look crossed Colonel's face, and in that moment, she realized he was losing control. You don't understand. You can't run from this. You're already part of it. As Ada recoiled from Colonel, the fear that had simmered beneath the surface boiled over. She felt trapped, cornered not only by him but by the dark forces he had invoked. I will never be part of your twisted games, she yelled, her voice echoing in the sterile room. Colonel's desperation transformed into anger, his facade crumbling completely. You think you can just reject this? They won't let you go. You're already marked. Ada's breath quickened, panic rising within her. What do you mean marked? She asked, her voice trembling. What have you done to me? The ritual, Colonel said, his voice almost a whisper now. You're part of it, whether you like it or not. If you fight it, it will only get worse for you. Worse? How could it possibly get worse? She shouted, her fists clenching in anger. You've already let this happen to me. Colonel took a step back, his expression shifting from rage to fear. They will come for you. You don't understand what you're dealing with. I thought if I could make the sacrifice, but I was wrong. They'll take you. Take me where? What are you talking about? Ada felt the world closing in around her, the walls of the hospital room pressing down like a vice. The lights flickered ominously as Colonel stepped closer, his voice urgent. We need to go, now. If you stay, they will claim you. I can protect you, but we have to leave this place. Before she could respond, the door burst open and Dr. Say entered, having sensed the escalating tension. "What's going on in here?" he demanded, his gaze darting between Ada and Kunnel. Kunnel shot a look of pure menace at the doctor, a threat simmering beneath his calm exterior. "This doesn't concern you, Doctor. Leave her alone." "It does concern me," Dr. Say replied firmly, his voice steady. "Ada is my patient, and you are making her worse. Stay out of this!" Kunnel snarled, moving dangerously close to the doctor, his anger palpable. "You don't understand what's happening. Then tell me." Dr. Say's voice was unwavering as he stood his ground. "If she's in danger, I need to know." Kunnel hesitated, caught in a web of his own deceit. Ada watched as the fight drained from him, replaced by fear and desperation. I never meant for it to go this far. I was just trying to help," he stammered, his voice cracking. Dr. Say took a step forward, his expression softening. "Help how? By endangering her life? You need to come clean, Kunnel. She deserves the truth." With a sudden burst of energy, Kunnel turned on Ada, his voice rising to a fever pitch. "You think he cares about you? He'll just let them take you. You have to trust me, Ada." Dr. Say's eyes narrowed, and he reached for his phone, prepared to call security. "Enough of this. You need to leave. If you pose a threat to her, I won't hesitate to remove you." Kunnel's expression morphed into a mix of rage and desperation. "You don't understand. She's tied to this. I can save her." Ada's heart raced as the two men faced off. "Kunnel, you need to go. I won't let you drag me into this any longer." As Kunnel stepped back, his eyes darkened with fury. "You'll regret this, Ada. They won't let you go that easily." With that, he stormed out, leaving Ada trembling and filled with dread. The atmosphere in the room shifted, tension coiling tightly around them. Dr. Say rushed to Ada's side, concern etched across his features. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," she whispered, her heart still racing. "I feel like I'm caught in something I can't escape." "We'll figure this out," he assured her, his grip firm. "But you have to trust me. We need to act fast." As days passed, the atmosphere in the hospital grew heavy with fear and uncertainty. Ada found herself slipping further into a pit of dread, her health declining even more as the maggots continued to manifest. Each day brought new challenges, and the sight of her body becoming a host for something grotesque filled her with horror. Dr. Say continued his investigations, speaking with local spiritual leaders and researchers who specialized in folklore surrounding curses and dark rituals. He became increasingly concerned about the potential consequences of Kunnel's actions, and with each passing day, the urgency of their situation deepened. One night, as Ada lay awake, she heard the soft creak of the hospital door opening. The shadows danced on the walls, and her heart raced as she recognized the silhouette of Dr. Say. He stepped into the dim light, his expression grave. "Ada, we need to talk," he said, his voice tense. "What is it?" she asked, anxiety clawing at her insides. "I've been speaking with some local elders, and they've given me some disturbing information about Kunnel's connections and the rituals he's been involved in. They believe he may have brought something into this world that has now latched onto you." Ada's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean? Like a curse?" "Exactly," Dr. Say replied, his expression grave. "They mentioned that certain rituals can create a bond between the person who invokes it and the victim. You might be tied to this dark force in a way that goes beyond your understanding." "What can we do?" she whispered, her mind racing. "How do we break this bond?" The elder suggested a purification ritual, but it requires your full cooperation and a strong determination to sever that connection. It won't be easy, and it might be dangerous, he said, his voice steady yet laced with concern. I'm willing to do anything, Ada replied, her resolve hardening. I can't live like this anymore. Good, Dr. Say said, a hint of relief washing over his face. We'll need to gather specific items for the ritual. Herbs, candles, and a few sacred objects that can help channel the energy. I'll arrange for everything, but we must act quickly before Kunal realizes what we're planning. Is there any chance he'll come back? Ada asked, fear creeping into her voice. I'm afraid so, Dr. Say admitted. He may become desperate if he feels he's losing control over you. We need to stay alert and ensure your safety. The next few days passed in a blur as Ada prepared for the ritual. Her family stayed close, providing support and strength as Dr. Say collected the necessary items. Together, they created a plan to protect Ada and to confront whatever darkness Kunal had unleashed. On the night of the ritual, the hospital room was transformed into a sacred space. Candles flickered in a circle, their flames dancing in the dim light, casting shadows that flickered against the walls. Ada felt a mix of fear and hope as she stood at the center of the circle, her heart pounding in anticipation. Dr. Say guided her through the steps of the ritual, speaking softly as he lit the candles and arranged the herbs. Remember, Ada, you must focus on severing your connection to Kunal and the dark forces. Visualize it in your mind, and don't let doubt creep in. As the ritual began, Ada closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. She imagined the bond that had tied her to Kunal, a thick, black rope that wrapped around her. With every breath, she envisioned it fraying, weakening under the intensity of her determination. But just as she began to feel a shift, a loud bang echoed through the room. The door slammed open, and Kunal burst in, his face contorted with rage and desperation. What are you doing? You think you can escape me? He shouted, his voice echoing off the sterile walls. Panic surged through Ada, but Dr. Say stood firm, placing himself protectively between Ada and Kunal. Get out, Kunal! You're not welcome here. Kunal's eyes blazed with fury. You think you can just take her from me? I won't let you. He lunged forward, but Dr. Say held his ground, his voice steady. Stay back! You're only making this worse for her, he warned, his eyes locked onto Kunal's with unwavering resolve. As the tension escalated, Ada felt a surge of energy rising within her. The candles flickered violently, shadows dancing around the room as she sensed the dark force that had latched onto her. It was as if it could feel Kunal's presence, growing agitated and restless. Leave her alone! Ada shouted, her voice rising as she pushed back against the darkness. You don't control me anymore. Kunal's expression shifted from anger to confusion, his demeanor faltering as he took a step back. What are you doing, Ada? You can't fight this. I won't let you go. In that moment, Ada felt a powerful surge of determination. The bond between her and Kunal began to unravel, the darkness that had enveloped her starting to dissipate. I'm reclaiming my life, she yelled, focusing on the vision of severing the connection completely. Stop! Kunal shouted, but his voice wavered. The energy in the room intensified, and Ada felt the grip of the dark force loosening as she channeled every ounce of strength she had. With a final surge, she visualized the black rope snapping, the darkness dissipating into a cloud of smoke. The candles flickered violently before flaring out, plunging the room into darkness. When the light returned, the room was eerily silent. Kunal stood frozen, disbelief etched across his face, while Dr. Say remained steadfast beside Ada, his eyes searching hers for any sign of injury. Did it work? Ada whispered, her voice trembling. She felt a strange lightness as though a weight had been lifted from her. Dr. Say nodded, relief flooding his expression. I think so. The bond between you and Kunal appears to have been severed. Kunal, however, still looked disoriented, the reality of what had just happened dawning on him. You can't leave me, he stammered, desperation creeping into his voice. You need me. I never needed you, Kunal, Ada replied, her voice steady and resolute. You've brought nothing but darkness into my life. Kunal's expression shifted from desperation to rage, but Ada could see the cracks forming in his facade. The darkness that had consumed him seemed to writhe beneath the surface, a reflection of the forces he had sought to control. You'll regret this, Ada, he spat, his voice low and threatening. You think you're free, but they will come for you. They always do. Dr. Say stepped forward, putting himself between Ada and Kunal. You're done here, Kunal. It's time to leave. With one last furious look, Kunal turned and stormed out of the room, leaving Ada trembling but resolute. The energy in the room shifted as if the darkness that had surrounded her began to lift. In the days that followed, Ada began to heal, both physically and emotionally. The maggots that had plagued her vanished, and she felt lighter, freer from the grip of the darkness that had once threatened to consume her. With Dr. Say's guidance and her family's support, she slowly reclaimed her life. As she sat in her hospital room, reflecting on everything that had happened, she realized how strong she had become. The fear that once paralyzed her had transformed into a fierce determination to forge her own path. Dr. Say entered with a warm smile. I've spoken with the elders, and they believe you have successfully broken the curse. You're free, Ada. A wave of relief washed over her. Thank you for everything, Dr. Say. I couldn't have done it without your help. He nodded, his expression serious. You showed incredible strength in facing that darkness. Just remember, healing is a process. Surround yourself with those who care about you. I will, she promised, her voice firm. I'm done letting others control my life. As Ada prepared to leave the hospital, she felt a newfound sense of purpose. She was determined to rebuild her life, to pursue her dreams without the shadows of the past holding her back. Months later, Ada stood at the edge of a beautiful park, the sun shining brightly as she took in the beauty around her. The flowers bloomed vibrantly, a stark contrast to the darkness she had emerged from. She breathed in deeply, feeling a sense of peace settle within her. The experiences she had endured shaped her into someone stronger, more resilient. She had chosen to pursue a career in community health, driven by a desire to help others avoid the pain she had suffered. As she walked through the park, she encountered a group of children playing, their laughter ringing through the air. In that moment, she felt a deep connection to life, to hope. She smiled, knowing that she had emerged victorious from her battle. While Kunal's shadow still lingered in her memories, she understood that it no longer had power over her. She had broken free from the ties that had bound her, and in doing so, she had reclaimed her life. In the weeks that followed, Ada began sharing her story, using her voice to advocate for those who felt powerless against dark forces, both seen and unseen. Her experiences empowered her to stand firm, and she became a beacon of hope for others. Though she knew the journey of healing was ongoing, Ada embraced the future with open arms, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The darkness had tried to claim her, but it had failed. And now, she was ready to shine. As the years passed, Ada found herself at a community health fair, sharing resources and connecting with others. Her journey had led her to a fulfilling career, one that helped others find their way through the darkness. She often reflected on her time in the hospital, the terrifying moments that had shaped her. They reminded her of the strength she possessed and the importance of surrounding herself with love and support. One day, while speaking to a group of young women about empowerment and resilience, she caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd. It was Dr. Say, smiling proudly from the back of the room. He had been a constant source of encouragement and wisdom throughout her journey, and seeing him brought a wave of gratitude flooding back. After her talk, she approached him, her heart warm with appreciation. "Thank you for everything, Dr. Say. I wouldn't be here without your support and guidance," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. He smiled, his eyes twinkling with pride. "You did all the hard work, Ada. You found the strength within yourself to fight back. I'm just glad I could help you see it." As they chatted, Ada shared updates about her work, her goals, and the community initiatives she had launched to help others navigate similar challenges. Dr. Say listened intently, nodding in agreement as she spoke passionately about the importance of mental health awareness and community support. "You're making a real difference," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "Your story can inspire others to find their